I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today, something that I have not yet done on the channel, but something that is actually quite useful to any prospective PC purchaser or PC builder, because we all have Facebook at the end of the day. Now, I actually didn't have it for a couple of years because I was locked out, but I'm back in now. And I thought, let me check out what's happening in the Facebook marketplace. And, being from a third world country, I'll tell you this, it's absolutely useless. Well, that's the way it seems anyway. So let's actually take a look at what we have here. Now this video is going to be a little bit different. I'm just gonna ballpark, just talk about what I see. And as you can see, of course, most of this looks like crap. And I think that's the problem when you're in a country like me. But, I've seen the same thing on American Facebook. It's mostly just a bunch of crap that people don't want anymore. But I do think that there are some deals to be had. And, if you search in the right areas, there are some certain things that you can purchase from Facebook that will be well worth your money. But here's another thing to consider when you're in a country like South Africa: your safety. So, we've all heard stories of people that have been robbed off of Facebook, when they meet the person. So, you just have to keep that in mind, and also keep in mind that you will most probably not get the item that you paid for. And so what I would recommend is doing either a thing where the person agrees to you paying a deposit and then receiving the item and testing it and paying in full, or if the deal looks really dodgy, let them send you the product, you pay when you are ready, when you have tested. Now, not everyone's going to agree to this, but those deals you're just going to have to let go at the end of the day, because you can't be putting yourself at risk as a PC purchaser, as a PC builder. And so let's take a look at what we actually have here. So first up, we have this AMD Ryzen 3 gaming computer, new motherboard, Aorus Elite, gigabyte, 500 gigabyte HHD, 4 gigs of DDR4 RAM, that's very random, and a 2 gigabyte GPU. Now here's the thing about purchasing second-hand computers. This one is really dirty, it looks disgusting, but apart from that, they are going to be mixed and matched, because you have a sort of like the photos are terrible, but you have sort of like a semi-high-end motherboard, which is of course an Aorus, but then, it's matched with 2 gigs of RAM, or 4 gigs of RAM and a 2 gigabyte GPU, something like a 750 Ti probably. So that kind of thing is going to happen, and this case you're just going to throw away, because for one, I don't know what's on it, it looks disgusting, but apart from that, it's not a good case to begin with. And of course, you're going to want to look out for photos of the system actually working. Now this system is running, but you need to see a screen where the system is posted, and this one doesn't have that, so I would avoid this deal. This is coming in at 3,000 Rand, which is approximately maybe around $180, something like that. I'm just doing the math in my head, but it's around something like that, which, if everything is working, let's say, because he doesn't say which Ryzen 3 CPU it is, so I'm going to assume it's going to be sort of probably like a third gen if you look at the motherboard and the cooler. So let's say a third gen Ryzen 3. So that's, that's a 4-core CPU. That's okay for gaming, but it's not great. 4 gigs of RAM and a 2 gigabyte 750 Ti or something like that. It does have a big power supply, it seems, an 850 watt, and it does seem to have some fans and some hard drives here. So there is a certain amount of value in this system, but it's not going to be anything amazing. So you have to sort of consider, what am I going to get out of buying this and cleaning it up and, making this sellable again. And in this case, you might double your money if you're lucky, but you're going to have to add RAM, you're going to have to add a better graphics card, a case. So you're going to end up spending closer to 6,000 Rand, closer to, something like $350, $400 to do this. So I don't know if this one is worth it, but these are the kinds of things that you have to ask yourself. Now, on the other hand, here we have just a CPU, and this is an i5-9400. And, When it comes to budget gaming, when you're the sort of person that does flip PCs, this is quite a good CPU for that because it is a 6-core CPU and it is relatively modern, and it is relatively capable. So when you're just doing flipping PCs for games, pairing this with something like a 1080 is really good, and 650 Rand for this is a pretty good price. You can do worse. And then of course you have SSDs. Now I don't know what happened to this one. Seems to be something all over it. So I would avoid this. And that's one thing that I've seen from these listings. They look pretty disgusting. So I would avoid this. It is only 300 Rand, but the person, I don't know, it just seems dirty. It is a 256, so you can get a new one for like 450 Rand. So, the difference with SSDs in value between new and used is so small that I just buy new because, when you have to resell SSDs, and they are dirty and they are used, I'd rather just spend the extra $10, if it is even that much. So apart from that, you're going to see a lot of things like phones. Now this is a really nice phone. It's a good price, but that's not exactly what I'm doing here. You'll see some smart rings, some speakers, cars, that kind of stuff. Let's take a look at one or two more PCs. Let's take a look at this one here. So this this one looks better. I mean, it's clean. It definitely has better specs. So this one is coming in at 9,000 Rand. So it has a 10100, which is a 4-core CPU, so already not the best there. An 8GB RX 6600, which is pretty good. 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM. Selling because I no longer have time to play games. Okay. A decent case. It looks quite good. It seems to be in good condition. The whole PC seems to be in good condition. Let's take a look here. So as they said, 10100F, 4-core 8-thread CPU. The motherboard is a B460MA Pro. That's an MSI motherboard, or ASUS. I think it's MSI. It's a decent motherboard. It's not too bad. And 16 gigs of RAM. So this PC, if it were maybe 2,000 Rand less, because this is 9,000 Rand, which is right about, $550 to $600. Again, I'm just saying the price out of my head because I don't know exactly what it is, but basically just times it by 18.5 right now. So, at around like $600, $500 to $600, it's an okay, the value is good, but that would be if it were new. But this one does seem to be well looked after. It seems to be clean, and all in all, it's going to be a fine system for playing games. So, just use context clues, take a look at the listing, take a look at the system, and take a look at the value. For reselling, this one probably isn't the best deal because you're not going to make much reselling this. But if you just want to buy a PC to play games, this one is fine. I would probably do something like that. Let's take a look at this one here, and this one is close to me in Knysna. And this is on special for 7,500. Looking at the images, it's a very big case for a very small motherboard, but I do recognize some components. So this was my PC for about 3 years. It's been good, haven't had any issues. I can run esports games at 165 FPS at 1440p most of the time. That's a very weird statement to make because you have to be specific about each game. I mean, maybe you can run the easiest to run esport game at 165, but that doesn't mean anything. And most AAA titles at 60 FPS. Again, we need specifics at 1440p, and that's not true because I can already see what this has in it. And I get temps at around 50 and 70 degrees Celsius. So it's easy to say it runs games quite well. I mean, okay, so it has an i5 8400, which is a 6-core CPU. It's an okay CPU. An RX 580 8GB. It's an okay graphics card. It's a bit old now. 16 gigs of 3200 megahertz RAM, ASUS Prime H310MK, and a Corsair 650 watt power supply with 1 terabyte of storage. Now, it doesn't seem like this has an SSD, which I would rectify immediately. But apart from that, specs wise, it's okay for gaming, for like mid-range HD gaming. It's fine. Um, You'll be able to play any game, of course, with this. But modern titles like Indiana Jones or The Last of Us, you're gonna be playing at low with this graphics card, and this is a fine graphics card. I had one a couple of weeks ago, but you have to be straight up with your listing and stating that this runs games, AAA games at 60 FPS at 1440p. I mean, that's 3060. That's 3060 levels, not 580. I'm talking about a 3060 from Nvidia. So the listing is a bit disingenuous, but the PC looks nice. I mean, the case looks nice. It's a very unique case. I like the way it looks. The components don't really fit in this case. I would have preferred a small form factor case for these components. But apart from that, value-wise, at 7,500, again, it's an okay value if you just want to play games, if you're looking to buy a PC to play games. But if you're going to be, selling this PC, that price would need to come down quite a lot, because the price right now is at like $400. For these specs, you can do a lot better for $400. Let's take a look at one last one. This seems like an older PC. Let's do two more because I see one here that looks interesting. Okay, so a 4,500 Rand desktop gaming PC. Now that is around something like $280, $320, something like that. And this has a GTX 1654 gig. So a relatively modern card, but a weak one. An i5 3470 quad-core CPU there, but an old one. 16 gigs of DDR3 RAM and a 500 gig Samsung SSD. Great computer for office use and light gaming, so this person is honest at least, and internet browsing. The original box for the Red Dragon PC case is included. That's always helpful. RGB doesn't work properly, as the motherboard doesn't have any RGB headers, because it can be easily fixed. But it can be easily fixed with an adapter. Okay, so this person is honest. This PC seems a bit dirty, but for the price, this isn't too bad. The PC is very dirty. Okay, and it's rusted, and that is because this is at Nelson Mandela Bay, which is by the sea, near Cape Town, I think, and that is obviously there's going to be a lot of rust. And so this case, this case has become sort of out. You'll have to replace the case now because of that. Because using a case like this, it's a hazard for a couple of reasons, and it's an eyesore. So you're gonna have to replace the case on that. So you lose a lot of value there. But apart from that, I mean, it has a 500 gig SSD. It's not the most recent specs, but for what it is, it's actually quite good, because just this graphics card still sells for around 1,800 Rand, and that is like almost half of the entire price for this. And you can probably talk down the price. Sorry, I'm looking at a spider there behind the screen. You can probably talk down the price to like 4,000 Rand. So if you can get this for $250, where the graphics card is like $80 second hand, then it's not a bad price. You could probably make a little bit of money reselling this, but again, it would be better to buy this for gaming. But then this system is a little bit outdated if you want to do some proper gaming. But if your budget is only like $250 and you can negotiate, something like this might be worth your time, because it will still play games. I mean, there's going to be very few games that this won't play, at least at low. But the newest games now, Helldivers and those kinds of games, it's going to be a bit too difficult for this system to play at a respectable frame rate. Looking at a cheaper one here. So this is a Core i3 7th gen, and this one is 2,000 Rand. Now this is interesting. So 7th gen i3 is quite interesting because, well, for one, you don't see a lot of 7th gen CPUs, not anymore really. And this one has 4 gigs of RAM, DDR4 RAM, a 500 gig hard drive. Now that's all you see in this, but we can get some context clues from the BIOS picture here. We can see that it has a chassis fan. Let's see if we, okay, so it's an old ProLine case. So this was a office computer. Now these computers are my favorite to flip because, okay, so you don't get much in the way of pictures here, but I mean, from the pictures, it seems relatively decent. Now so what I like about these ProLine computers, instead, you know, when you're talking about office computers, you get proprietary office computers and you get ones that are not proprietary. And basically what that means is some of them are going to be like this, where you can remove the motherboard, you can add a graphics card, you can change the power supply, you can add a different case. Or others, you know, like your Dell systems most of the time are gonna not allow that. You'll only be able to work within the spec of that system. And they do it like that because they don't want people to change out their components. They want that. It's the same thing that Apple does. They want their own ecosystem so that they can make all of the money from the repairs, all of the money from the sales, even secondhand stuff. It's all gonna, you know, when you have to repair it, when you need anything, you're gonna have to go back to them. So, you know, that's what I like about ProLine. Now these are old computers, so I don't know how it is now, but it used to be quite good for office PCs. And then, you know, you'll take these components. So you have an 7th gen i3, which that's not going to be good for gaming, but you take it like this for 2,000 Rand. Let's say you talk down to 1,500 Rand, which is going to be like $80, right? You take that, you replace the power supply with something like a 450 watt power supply. You add like a 2060 to this, and at that point you're looking at, like, if you do it well, you're looking at like $250 total, right? Then you buy a new CPU, i7-7700K or something like that. Now you have a powerful CPU. It's a bit outdated, but it's powerful. You add some more RAM, so you get to, like, let's say 12 to 16 gigs of RAM, and you're at like $350. And then of course you have to add a better case as well. But at this point you've spent under $400 and you have a gaming capable system that you can sell for $600, $700, $800 if you play your cards right. So that's what I like to do when flipping PCs. Now I don't flip PCs anymore, but that's what I used to do, and that's why these kinds of systems excite me. So, you know, this is the kind of thing that I would actually recommend doing. But, you know, when you're talking about Facebook, just take a good look at what you have. I mean, you have a lot of options, and, you know, people are all trying to make money, all trying to survive out there. So, you know, some of these are going to be disingenuous, some of these are going to be bad deals and people trying to take advantage of you, but some of them won't. You just need to learn how to discern which is which, and that can be quite difficult. So with that said, you can definitely make money on Facebook Marketplace, but most of it is really gross, and most of it is going to be people trying to take advantage of you, trying to rob you, trying to steal your stuff, or at least your money. But there is still a little bit of capacity for trading, especially in the right locations. Do you use Facebook Marketplace for building computers, for trading? Is this something that you've been doing for a while? Let me know down below. I'm curious, you know, to the builders out there. Have you bought a gaming PC from Facebook that you just use for gaming? Did it work? Were you robbed? And also, what country are you in? Because, you know, in a country like South Africa, you have to play your cards right, and you have to be a little bit careful, unfortunately. So with that said, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.